Hello, dear friends, and welcome to our weekly program. We are live broadcasting from Northern California, Divine Light Spiritist Center, Visaya Spiritual Healing Center. And we focus in our study on the gospel according to Spiritism, but we focus on a specific part of the gospel, and it is the Spirit's teachings. Every chapter has almost every chapter in the gospel also provides us with the input from spirits on high. First, usually Allan Kardec starts off a chapter with some quotations from the gospels. Then he brings his own interpretation and focus points, and then he allows the spirits to come through and help us out further. And today we're finding ourselves in chapter 19. Chapter 19 is entitled Faith Moves Mountains. So let us focus on faith today, dear friends. We will be summarizing briefly what Allan Kardec tells us about faith, and then we go straight into the Spirit's teachings, which both come from a spirit protector. So, and for that purpose, let us also share the screen. Please bear with me, dear friends. Okay, let's see. Okay, first of all, it's somebody here and not seeing a name, but thank you for joining, dear friend. And we're going to share now. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay. So the Spirit's teachings. All right. So Allan Kardec starts off with a quote by Jesus. If you had faith as a mustard seed, you would say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move, and nothing would be impossible for you. Wow. We wish we were that powerful, and as we will be learning and have learned already and may just be reminded, we are powerful and we have more powers than we often believe to have. So when Jesus said that, it's a very empowering guidance. Allan Kardec then continues to say that those mountains that Jesus mentioned in this quote are really our difficulties, our resistance, our ill will, our prejudices, our material interests, our selfishness, our blindness of fanaticism, and our prideful passions, and more. Everything that hinders us and is in our evolution and is more or less linked to selfishness and pride, because we know that at the root cause of all evil on this planet lies selfishness and pride. And those are the mountains that we need to move, and we can do it with faith. What is faith? Allan Kardec helps us out. He says that faith is perseverance, it's strength. It means we have resources, confidence, we are calm and patient. So faith is an integral part of our lives, of our being. True faith allies itself with humility, he also says. So as we see once again, a virtue, which is then the antidote to selfishness and pride. So before we go to the Spirit's teachings, let's for a second just look at Thought in Life. Thought in Life was written by the Spirit Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, and he actually dedicates a whole chapter to faith. And let's just take a tiny peek, because it's just such a wonderful, concise, and beautiful expose on faith. And we're just picking out a few highlights. He says that faith is a power. Faith is a power that is born with the soul itself. So it's in us. It's a power that is in our souls. It is an instinctive certainty in the wisdom of God. Very nice, right? Makes it very clear. An instinctive certainty in the wisdom of God. It breathes within all beings, so faith breathes in all beings and vibrates in all things. And he actually says that it manifests all over around us. If you want to read all the examples he gives us, please refer to chapter 6 in Thought and Life by Emmanuel. He also says that every kind of activity in life develops in one way or another by faith. Wow. And then he explains how. We're not going to go there right now, but please do look at the chapter. It's fascinating. He says to achieve faith, no matter what our religious interpretation of God may be, we must accentuate our own trust in God. So faith is also linked to trust in God, most and foremost. Think of a lens. Okay, then he gives us an example. So then he says, let us tirelessly seek good and waste no time with evil. Good is God. God is good, right? Let us seek the good in people, in things, and events that cross our paths during our daily activities, which help us with faith. So, dear friends, this chapter is a wonderful addition to our study tonight. So now let us move on to the Spirit's teachings. And we are going to... Okay, here we go. It's in item 11. And it's by Joseph, A Protective Spirit. And we're using this edition of the Gospel. So here, it's entitled Faith, the Mother of Hope and Charity. So faith, as we can see in this little slide here, faith, we put faith on top just only because as a mother with 2 children, there would be below. But that's just duality in action. But maybe it helps us to understand it better. So faith is the mother of hope and charity. To be worthwhile, faith must be constantly active and never dulled by inaction. So faith is an action. It is through our will, a power that we nurture in ourselves. Faith is the mother of all the virtues leading up to God, and its duty is to keep close watch over the development of its offsprings. From faith comes hope and love. Here he says it. Faith is the mother of charity and hope. From faith comes hope and love. So to focus on faith will help us in our development of hope and charity. Virtues, all these are virtues that together with faith form an inseparable trinity. And here we go. We have the Trinity: charity, hope, and faith. Isn't it faith that helps you hope? You hope for the realization of the Lord's promise. Isn't it faith that helps you hope for the realization of the Lord's promise, right? So there we see faith and hope. How could you have such hope if faith didn't exist? Yeah, what would it be based on? What would our hope be based on if there wasn't faith? And isn't it faith that sustains love? Isn't it faith that sustains love? It's so logical, right? If you didn't have faith, how would you express gratitude to God and show the full extent of your love? These are such good questions that we're invited to actually spend more time with them tonight, to ponder, to really truly understand how faith, charity, and hope are this Trinity, this inseparable Trinity. The last question was, how would you express gratitude to God and show the full extent of your love if you didn't have faith? Right? Faith is the inspiration that awakens humanity's noblest impulses. Faith is the inspiration that awakens humanity's noblest impulses and impels it towards the good. Faith is the divine inspiration that awakens humanity's noblest impulses. Faith is also the base of all spiritual renewal. Faith is the base of our spiritual renewal. Without faith, we can't do it. Consequently, this base must be soundly built. Doubt, if harbored, will cleave through the base and imperil the building sitting on it. You must build your faith on a solid foundation. Thus, nurture your faith to be stronger than the futile arguments of critics and firm enough to withstand the ridicule of unbelievers. So, faith, the opening of the chapter was, it's constantly active and never dulled by inaction. It is a constant work. It's an action. Faith is not sterile. It's not rigid. It's not dull. It's an action. So this foundation for faith is also an activity we need to nurture. Sincere faith is infectious. Sincere faith is infectious and captivating. It touches the soul of people who lack it and even those who rebuff it. So this is really key, that when we interact with people who don't have faith, we now understand that our faith can be infectious. I've experienced it one day. It was a situation where I was very challenged, and a person came by, and it was actually in Brazil, and told me to have faith. And the way this person said it and pointing to the heavens, it just cut through all my lack of faith that I had at that moment. And it gave me peace and strength to take the next step. It instilled hope and opened my heart. It's a beautiful thing. So faith is infectious and captivating. It touches the soul of people who lack it and even those who rebuff it. It inspires persuasive words that touch the heart. As opposed to faint faith, which only uses high-sounding words and leaves listeners cold and indifferent. And here it is again, just like what Jesus did. Words, actions speak louder than words. We are invited to model it, to teach through the example of your faith. Teach through the example of your faith, and you will infect everyone. Action. Teach through the example of your works, and you will demonstrate the merit of faith. Teach through an unshakable hope, and everyone will see the courage that empowers you to brave even the hardest of life's challenges. Leading by example. When we have been able to build this foundation super solidly, and we have absolute unshakable faith in God, we can help our brothers and sisters just by being. What a beautiful thing, so effortless, right? And we never know where our seeds of faith fall. They may fall on very fertile ground, but it may also fall on not such fertile ground. But let us never forget having faith and radiating it out. Have faith, he says. Let yourself be enraptured by all its beauty and goodness, its purity and rationality. Don't accept a faith that can't stand up to reason, for that faith is an offspring of mental blindness. Right? So we have blind faith and we have reasoned faith. And in Spiritism, we practice reasoned faith, the faith that makes sense, the faith we can observe, the faith that we can explain, the faith we build for ourselves based on reason, not blind faith. Love God, but know well why you love God. Believe in God's promises, but have clear understanding of why you believe in them. The mind is always active. Listen to our advice, but convince yourself of the ends we point you to and the means we suggest by which you can reach them. We're listening. Trust and be patient without ever losing heart. Trust and be patient without ever losing heart. Miracles are the works of faith. Miracles are the works of faith. Jesus said, you can move mountains. But let us be patient and let us practice faith and let us be solid about it and reasoned, not blind faith. Let us do our homework, letting the light of discernment shine super brightly. My dear friends, let us move on. So this was item 11. The faith is the mother of hope and charity. So now, next chapter is entitled Human and Divine Faith. And that comes from a guardian spirit. In human beings, faith is an inborn feeling about their future destiny. Just like Emmanuel told us, it is inborn, it's innate. It's an innate sentiment in human beings. It's the intuitive realization that they have in themselves enormous abilities, though in a latent state, which they're expected to make blossom and grow through the action of their will. So faith is the will to desire and the conviction that the desire will be fulfilled. Faith is innate to us, and yet it is an action. Until the present time, faith has only been understood in its religious sense, because Christ extolled it as a powerful lever and because he has been seen only as the head of a religion. But Christ, who performed material miracles, showed human beings through these miracles that they could do if they had what they could do if they had faith. That is to say, the will to desire and the conviction that this desire will be fulfilled. And that is at the core of faith. We know it's innate. We know it's an action. We know we need to practice it. We know we need to be solid with it. But what is it? It is the will to desire and the conviction that the desire will be fulfilled. It is strong, focused. So this is very important, dear friends, this particular attribute, this definition, that faith can move mountains. And the so-called miracles, we know that there were miracles, but they are at our disposal as well. Jesus told us. And if we want to understand the miracles, the so-called miracles, and what is behind them, because thanks to Allan Kardec and Spiritism, the spiritual science, they can all be explained. And we had a whole study session, I believe it was on Kardec Radio, just about that, the miracles in Genesis. And if you like to look them up yourself, they're right in Genesis by Allan Kardec. Didn't the apostles also perform miracles by following Jesus's example? And what were these miracles except the natural effects of causes that weren't understood in those days? There it is. That can be explained in great part now and totally understood through studying the principles of the Spiritist doctrine in physical magnetism. So this guardian spirit is reminding us that these miracles are very much attainable to us if we understand the mechanism behind it. Because there were actually not miracles. There were natural effects of causes. But back then, they weren't understood. We know the law of cause and effect, right? There's a cause and there's an effect. The miracles, the effects that were called miracles, had causes behind it. And these causes are explained by Allan Kardec in Genesis. And our protector, our guardian spirit, is alluding to that. And he's actually putting a translator's note behind this sentence, because it says that these effects can be explained in great part now and totally understood through studying the principles of the Spiritist doctrine in physical magnetism. And here comes the footnote, which is related to magnetism. Physical magnetism related to properties of animal magnetism, a system of healing proposed by Franz Anton Mesmer. According to Mesmer, we are immersed in a fluid that is universal and continuous, through which celestial bodies, the earth, and animated bodies mutually influence each other. So Mesmer was saying essentially that we are immersed in a fluid that we're swimming in. We're all influencing each other through this fluid. And we're made out of this fluid to boot. The influence manifests life itself in the human body through properties analogous to those of the magnet, and can be communicated, changed, destroyed, and reinforced. And here it is. That is the explanation of the cause. So, to go over this again, this influence manifests itself in the human body through properties analogous to those of the magnet, and can be communicated, changed, destroyed, and reinforced. Modern physics helps us understand this fundamental idea through the concept of fields of energy. Accordingly, living forms constituted of atoms, cells, organs, and bodies would be a complex system of hierarchical fields. If one conceives an ill person as being in less than an optimal energy state, so if one person is sick, then a transfer of energy from a person with a surplus could help accomplish healing, because we're affecting each other through this fluid and our will of what our intentions are. So this is the explanation of magnetism. This is how healings happen. This is how the so-called miracles happened that Jesus performed. Mesmer's concept of a universal fluid is analogous to the Spiritist doctrine's cosmic principle discussed in the Spirit's book, question 27. This is the essence of the concept of physical magnetism espoused by Allan Kardec. So the cosmic principle, the universal cosmic fluid, is discussed in question 27. Now let us go. We're going kind of down the rabbit hole, but it's short enough, so we took that little detour. So question 27 in the Spirit's book is, so are there two general elements of the universe, matter and spirit? So are there two general elements in the universe, matter and spirit? Here's the answer. Yes, and above them is God, the creator of all things. These three, God, spirit, and matter, are the essence of all that exists, the universal Trinity. We should also add here the cosmic principle, and that is this fluid, which is an intermediary between spirit and matter, as you know it. So the cosmic principle, this fluid that is an integral part of magnetism, is the transmitter of energy from spirit to matter. We have it in our own bodies in the form of the perispirit. But the Trinity, how does he call it? The cosmic, universal Trinity is God, spirit, and matter. And the intermediary is the cosmic principle, through which matter can be and is being manipulated. We do it all day long. Our spirit works this body via the perispirit. So I hope this is clear. Feel free to post questions or comments if you like. I can't see them at this moment, but we can look at them later. All right, so back to our faith. Now, faith is either human or divine. So, of course, faith, which is an activity and action, now we understand better how the will, through our will, faith is being expressed. It's magnetic. Magnetics, the word magnetism, right? And with the faith, we have an influence through the cosmic principle on our outside world and on our own self. So faith is the mother of love. We said it earlier, of mother of hope and love, or in charity. So this is all what we express, and therewith we change via the cosmic principle, i.e. magnetism. We have an impact. We cause an effect. And that's exactly what Jesus did in his miracles, so-called miracles. I hope this is clear. I really hope it's clear. Okay, so faith is either human or divine. Now, why would that be? Well, it's very easy, right? Because when it is divine, then we find satisfaction of heavenly and future aspirations. The divine faith depends on whether okay, so let's back up. He says faith is either human or divine, depending on whether human beings use their talents to satisfy their earthly needs or their heavenly and future aspirations. So again, where do we send energy into, which then manipulates through the cosmic with the cosmic principle matter or everything around us. So where do we put our intention? A talented person who throws him or herself into realizing a great undertaking will succeed if sustained by a strong faith. Right? That's the emanation that goes through the cosmic principle and manipulates, causes an effect. Is it either materialistic or is it divine? Faith gives that inner conviction, a powerful certainty that he or she is bound to reach the end visualized. The good man or woman who believes in a heavenly future and wants to fill life with beautiful and noble actions draws on faith for the necessary power to do so, and through faith accomplishes miracles of love, devotion, and self-denial. So first we have talented people who are focusing with strong faith on their undertaking in the material world. And they may attain it. They visualize the end that they want to reach. So this would be more the human faith. Now, the divine faith is the good man or woman who believes in a heavenly future and wants to fill life with the beautiful and noble actions, drawing on faith for the necessary power to do so through love, devotion, and self-denial. Finally, faith is a powerful instrument to help us correct any negative impulses of the soul. And now we understand what the mechanism of faith is. It's a magnetic action. It's magnetic. It goes through a manipulation of the cosmic principle via the cosmic principle of certain outside events, either in the realm of the divine or material. Physical magnetism. Let's see. No, sorry. Okay, this is the last one. Physical magnetism is one of the greatest proofs of the power of faith when put into action. It is through faith that it cures and produces the unique physical healing that in other times was called a miracle. So we have the human or divine faith, and then he mentions another aspect, that's the physical magnetism. That is when we use faith and a desire to do the good in healing. And many of us have experienced it and partaken in this before. We know the power of it, or we've been on the receiving end. But now we see it. We have faith, and that's often why spiritual healing is called faith healing. Now we understand it better, how faith plays into that, right? It's that conviction that, and the faith in God, the power to change a physical condition in this case. So let's read that again. Physical magnetism is one of the greatest proofs of the power of faith when put into action. It is through faith that it cures and produces the unique physical healing that in other times was called a miracle. It's physical magnetism. And the Spirit says, I repeat, faith is both human and divine. If all souls could be convinced of the force they have within, and if they genuinely want to place their will at the service of this force, they too could produce these so-called miracles, which are nothing more than the development of human gifts. This is the ultimate of empowerment for us. This can, if we truly make that our own and we feel it in our most innermost fibers, this will change everything. Jesus told us, you can do all of what I'm doing and more. And Allan Kardec comes along with the help of the spirits. Allan Kardec explains to us the mechanism. And I again warmly invite you to look at Genesis, which explains the mechanism so much better than I do and have time to do right now. And if you don't like to read it, you can go to Kardec video and go through the many study sessions that we had on this. They're really quite fascinating. And they will help us understand this power, this innate power we have. And it's steeped and based in faith. And it's both the human faith, which is the satisfaction of earthly needs, and the divine faith, which is the satisfaction of heavenly and future aspirations. And we're going to read the last sentence again, because hopefully we'll feel so, which it says, an opening for any one of us who sometimes feel hopeless. We know now faith is the mother of hope and charity. Let us have faith. We have the power to change, not only ourselves, but also facilitate change. Let us read this again. Faith is both human and divine. If all souls, if all of us on earth and yes, he says souls, not spirits. If all souls could be convinced of the force they have within, and if they genuinely wanted to place their will at the service of this force, they too could produce these so-called miracles, which are nothing more than the development of human gifts. Why does he say to place their will? And if they genuinely wanted to place their will at the service of this force, namely faith. Emmanuel tells us in Thought and Life that the will is in charge over our mind. It's like the boss. The mind is a whole huge corporations with tons of different compartments, departments, and the will is the boss. It stands over it. So if we want to practice this, and align ourselves with this force by having faith that it can be used in this direction, things will change, dear friends. The time is over to feel small and powerless. We have the power. And it's our work to unlock it. And as we know, once we have unlocked it, it's infectious. It will help our brothers and sisters, who of course will have to do their own work. But we can be instrumental. Earlier, The Spirit told us that it is infectious. Faith is like a spark, it jumps over. Okay, dear friends, and influences others in a positive way. And here we are. Hi, Mark. Hi, Tony. And there's so many others, but I don't see names. Thank you so much for joining, dear friends. And you're invited to look at this chapter in its entirety. It's a beautiful one. And now we know how important faith is for us today more than ever. God bless you, dear friends, and thank you for joining. And so, God willing, we'll see you again next week, same time, same place. And it's the workers of the last hour. Take care. And thank you.